because last year you could, I mean, people were make the argument and it was fair. Like, is this going to continue? And then he's injured and he comes back and through whatever. What's their record around 6-3? So through 9 games, got 15 touchdowns. He's on pace for 30 touchdowns. And they're going to do it. Like, he's just doing it again because he was a Pro Bowl level guy that stretch. But you got to earn it, right? You got to sustain it, I guess is a better way to say it. And he's sustaining it.
He is comparing him and Hurts. Hurts is 1% better in completion percent. Sorry, 0.1% better in completion. 0.1% better in completion percentage. He has thrown for 18 more yards this year than Brock. So that's exactly 2 more yards per game. They have the same number of touchdown passes. Hurts has 3 more interceptions. Brock is higher in the yards per attempt. And obviously Hurts is, extremely, I'm not saying this to say they're the same player, but obviously Hurts brings a whole running element as well.
But he doesn't run as much as he used to.
No, he's hurt, right? Would you agree with that when you watch him? Like, he doesn't look 100%.
No.
Tell me if you agree with this on Brock. Like,
I'd say Purdy's been better than Hurts this year. Because, like, Brock lost him a game. Hurts lost him the Jets game.
Yeah. But they've also won a couple games where they did not have it going on, where the Niners have yet to, like, really win a game where they don't have it going on.
Yeah, they've played consistently in the 3 games the Niners lost, especially Minnesota and Cleveland. They won those games because kind of Jalen made some big plays at the end of the game, and their quarterback was the opposite.
Yeah. You gotta win with your beat. Like, let's see you go win when your team has a C+, B- game, and you got to go make plays at the end.
I would say the big difference between the two players, throw out the numbers, which are borderline identical. If you're an Eagles fan and you're down 3 points, or it's a tie game, or you're down 4 points in the middle of the fourth quarter, you feel confident with your guy. I think there is still some unknown with Purdy because we saw that spot. Like, this is his moment. Now, he might have been concussed, whatever. He had another moment against Cincinnati. It completely unraveled. So he has yet to, do it this year. He had the one moment last year against the Raiders, kind of playing with house money at the time. Like, that wasn't, they were going to the playoffs. It was about seeding or whatever, but it was really it felt like I would imagine if we look back, like his only comeback, because most of the games they've won with him have been ass kickings in the regular season. I mean, he's been a part of a lot of ass kickings, which you get credit for as a player.
Yeah.
But ultimately, and Fred said this after they were losing, like, that's not normal NFL. Like, Hurts is playing in a lot of normal NFL games, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, so it leads me to the question I was going to ask you. Here's where I'm at with Brock, because you brought up, like, the stats, and last year, can he do it again? And I still think we got to wait and see, like, kind of how all the efficiency numbers in the end, the touchdown interceptions, he didn't throw any, and then he threw them in bunches. What does he do late in games? All that stuff. But in terms of waiting for defenses to do something that he's not going to be ready for, or waiting for somebody to hit him in the mouth so many times that he backs down, or waiting for him to look overwhelmed, I'm good with him there. Like, there's still a long way to go before you're a franchise quarterback. But in terms of just proving, like, it wasn't, not the efficiency part of it, but just him belonging in the NFL wasn't a fluke. I do think he has proven he belongs. Like, that part's not a fluke with him. What do you think?
I agree.
Jury's not still out for you?
No, totally agree. The character stuff, the character is the wrong way to put it. The intangible football stuff. I think this is why I think he has a lot in common, honestly, with Dak and with obviously with Jalen, is you kind of knew right away. Like, the wiring from football competitiveness doesn't mean it's always going to work, but you feel very good about the player handling shit, right? In the huddle, locking in, not being overwhelmed. Doesn't mean that the result is going to be great, but I think he passes that test with flying colors. I think the NFC actually has a lot of that, right? Like, say what you want, Jared Goff's got a lot of fucking, like, mental toughness. He's got some Alex Smith level stuff. Jalen, what he's overcome in terms of just getting benched, having to beat out Carson, just it's right mindset. Dak has been, a high level guy from the jump. So it's just, that's what you're dealing with. And Cousins, another guy that I think Minnesota proved, like, hell, they might make the playoffs still, but, like, he brings a lot of that to the table. Like, the NFC is less about, like, are these some of the greatest players we've ever seen? And more just, like, incredible stories. Obviously Jalen now is rich and Dak's rich and Cousins is rich, but their story is a lot different than, like, yeah, Mahomes' first year starting, he won the MVP. Yeah, Joe Burrow, greatest college season ever, got to the pros by the second year, he's got the Bengals in the Super Bowl. Fucking superstar. Josh Allen couldn't hit water from a boat. 3 years in, it's like, yeah, this might be the second best quarterback in the league. Everyone's constantly talking shit about the NFC guys. Like, Dak sucks. Cousins is a bum on prime time. Jalen, most people like myself thought he was a running back. Brock Purdy, are you fucking kidding me? The NFC's got a lot of similar stories in a weird way. A lot of mid-round picks, right? I mean, Jalen, of the guys, I guess Jared was the number 1 overall pick, but Jalen second rounder, Dak 4th, Cousins 4th, Purdy 7th. I mean, it's not a lot of just from the jump. The building's yours.
Well, I mean, Cousins. Did you say Cousins?
I said, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll add one to that. Sounds crazy though. I've got respect for Baker's career. He's on his 4th team in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. He played for the Browns.
Well, he's I mean, his last year, he's checked about 3 of them, right?
3 teams. Yep. I mean, it hasn't gone well. It's been a failure from a draft pick perspective, but I think sometimes there's guys in his position that just kind of shut it down. He's thrown 116 touchdowns and 69 picks. This year, he's 14 touchdowns and 5 picks, 65%. He's already thrown for over 2,000 yards. I mean, he's not going to look, you're not going to look up and he will have fulfilled kind of the hopes and dreams people had for him. But you are going to look up, it feels like, and Baker will have just played for, I don't know.
I think he resurrected his career this year for sure.
Well, do you think someone's going to make him a starter next year?
No, but when I say resurrect his career, like he's got another 5, 6, 7 years, kind of that fringe moment. Bad team can do this. Good team. Like, you don't think like Andy Reid or the Bills or, hey, $3-4 million to be my backup.
I've developed some respect for Baker. I got to tell you, I really have.
This is what I'm saying. I think we talked about it yesterday with Kyler. We just mature at later years. And I think some of these guys from high that were now Baker, unlike Kyler, wasn't a super high pick. But once you become a star in college, you start getting at the colleges these guys go to, you start getting treated like a superstar.
You mean he wasn't a high recruit?
He wasn't a high recruit. Had to walk on multiple places. But by the time he left Oklahoma, he was kind of anointed. Heisman, just had been a star there for several years, number 1 overall pick, and kind of helped the Browns get back going. And then it kind of derailed. But what I'm saying is,
his 3rd year,
and they beat the Steelers in the playoffs.
26 touchdowns, 8 picks.
I watch him though, and I think backup. And when I say backup, I don't mean like right now he's probably somewhere between 20 and 30, but you can't have guy 20 and 30 and be a good team. So like if he was the 10th guy, not the 23rd guy, they would not be 4 and 5. They would be 6 and 3. Because they, like Kyle said on the press conference, like they've been in a lot of tight games, right? Like part of, like you watch the Raiders, you're like, or the Jets, a lot of teams are just, if we just have the 14th best quarterback, those 2 losses that make us, 3 and 5, we're 5 and 3. So that's what the league comes down to. So like the difference in the 49ers, they've gotten really good quarterback play 80% of the time. Honestly, like 90% of the time. His shitty quarterback play just came on inopportune times. Like you can't be 50-50. Like the Saints, I've watched a lot of Cards. Like he's playing closer to the Baker style than he is what I think they paid him to be, which was at the bottom tier of the Dak, Cousins. And what's crazy is this, we talk about the improving or not improving. Dak's just been, I think considered by most people a better player than Cousins, but like Cousins just kept getting better. And both of them, like they're just good. Like they keep getting better. They never feel, they have bad games, but they never feel like they're getting shittier. And that's what like Jimmy, Derek, like, I'm sorry, Bob, you're not in that tier anymore. You're paid like it still. I mean, Jimmy's a fucking backup now. Would you rather have Jimmy or Baker? Assuming that Baker is like, clearly got his head on straight and a good guy now.
Baker. It seems like Jimmy, Jimmy's starting to like pay attention when he's not in the game is the story, helping out, keeping an eye on things. The Niners felt like he didn't stay engaged at a certain point, which separate story.
I know, but that gets back to when the whole mercenary situation with him on the side and the way it was like playing out with the trade and we're only going to get when you start doing that, the other side doesn't just get to be like, well, I'm all in no matter what. You can just treat me like like just an asset. Float me out here, and I'll be cool no matter what. I'll die for you. If you're gonna die, I'm gonna die too, Matt Rule style. So like the Niners kind of signed up for that. Would be my take.
The counter
it's hard for me to complain about him not doing everything to come back from an injury. Like, yeah, he's kind of checked out. Welcome to life.
The counter to that is he doesn't have to do it for them. But if it's true that he could have maybe gotten himself back and ready by the end of the season or by the postseason, then he potentially cost himself a chance to trot onto the field in the NFC Championship game, be the superhero that helps the Niners get to the Super Bowl and play in another Super Bowl. And I don't know. I mean, there are some people around the Niners that think that Jimmy could have gotten himself back. I don't know that he could have.
But he had to get surgery when he signed the Raiders contract.
I understand. But that's to pass a physical to sign. That's different than are you good enough to play, right?
What if he knew that, like, hey, this could go? Like, why is it working?
He might have. Yep, he might have. But I'm just saying, in the scenario we're talking about, which is, could he have gotten himself back on the field? And I understand what you're saying. What you're describing is a very real world human thing. Like, hey, you treat me like shit, I'm not going to work my ass off to get back on the field for you. That's fine. Like, it's business. I get it. I'm worried about my career, not about your team. I'm just saying, in that scenario, you kind of cut off your nose to spite your face, right? It's like, hey, I'm not going to do it for you guys. I'm not going to do it for you guys. Well, it wouldn't have been for them. It would have been him jogging onto the field to be the superhero in the NFC.
But like, I haven't practiced. I think the other thing, it wasn't just, hey, Kyle had said something poorly. Like, it had been a kind of a 2-year running draft a guy, moved on. Like, it was bound to happen, I'd say. There's a reason most people, the moment they move on, I said this when they kept him around, like Andy Reid just traded Alex Smith. And remember, they could have traded him, but they couldn't quite get enough because the physical. It's like, well, you guys are playing with fire. Then, like, they get their perfect world, they get him back for $5 million, and then it kind of went. Like, for example,
they took advantage of his situation, right? That's
how and he was like, whatever. But like, you don't have an all-in guy. Like right now, if Sam Darnold or something like that happened, that would be a dark cloud on his career that he couldn't shake. Like, I think a lot of people would go like, yeah, I mean, I understand. Like the 49, it was a fucked up situation all the way around. Like the Niners get blamed for creating the weirdness, I guess, is what I would say.